All right, hey everybody, welcome back to Victory Outdoors, the podcast. This is episode 2, and joining me is Andrew from JAG Calls. Man, couldn't be more excited about turkey season. It is coming at us fast. It's our next big kind of season that's gonna hit us. Like we're kind of known for our deer hunting and that kind of stuff, and like you would expect, being in Iowa. Obviously, we hunt a lot of big deer, but something that's really close to my heart has always been turkey hunting. I was a turkey hunter before I was a bow hunter. I wasn't necessarily a turkey hunter before I was a deer hunter, but definitely was a turkey hunter before I picked up the bow and started chasing animals with archery equipment. But so I mean, I really fell in love with chasing, that spring gobble. I don't think there's anything cooler than being in the spring turkey woods, hearing that thunderous gobble, echoing. It echoes off of the woods, and you don't even know which direction that turkey's coming from because he's so close. You just know he's close, and there's just something about that. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it. Right?
Oh yeah, I mean unfortunately, as soon as I hear a turkey gobble, I'm like, man, I wish this was like just as long as deer season. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's
That
that's
heart
just one of
that
like the best sounds, man.
Yeah, the heart starts, pumping, and you get excited, and you're in the business. Like, thing about it is, like, there's been a lot of turkey hunts that I've been on where you hardly hear a gobble. And it's like, if I feel like, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like this, but like, I feel like if I get them to gobble, like if they're gobbling back at me, like I almost feel like it's a done deal. Now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times where it doesn't work out. They gobble, go the other way, or whatever the case may be. But, I feel like I've almost won that challenge. We actually, kind of a sign that we're getting close to turkey season is we're going to be airing our Just Turkey series. So, if you're familiar with Victory Outdoors, obviously we have the deer show, which we air in the summer leading up to fall. And then we air a separate spring series that we call Just Turkey, and that's exactly what it is. It's just basically us. We get out in the spring. We mostly probably hunt Iowa, but being in the Midwest, that's one of the coolest things about being here in the Midwest. That Nebraska is relatively inexpensive and it's close by. Wisconsin is relatively inexpensive. It's close by. Minnesota, it's relatively inexpensive, but Minnesota is just maybe a little bit harder, I guess, for me. I've hunted it a couple of times. Missouri is a little bit similar. I don't get out there as much as I do to like the other two states. But Kansas is another one. Kansas is a great state that has a decent number of birds. I mean, it wasn't quite, it's not quite what it was a couple years ago. 10 years ago, say, like, the birds, obviously kind of seen this throughout the country, but they kind of dipped there for a while. They're kind of starting to come back in certain areas. Iowa's really unique that the way our seasons are set up, like you have fairly short seasons, similar to Wisconsin, really. If you're familiar with that, like we have 4 seasons. I think Wisconsin has 6. They break their spring up into, and what that does is it just limits really the hunter's success a little bit. But man, we're gonna drop episode 1 of our new season of Just Turkey. It's gonna be a sweet episode. Ty Green and Ian Sparks are gonna be hunting in Nebraska, and it's definitely an action packed hunt. But they had to work for it. It was one of them kinds of. They made those turkeys made them work for it. You don't always get that in Nebraska. Like I've had some successful hunts in Nebraska where it's like one morning and I'm done. But I've also had some ones where it wasn't so successful. Like last year I went and it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm like, oh yeah, wind sure does blow here in Nebraska. But anyway, man, tell us a little bit about your call company. For those of you who don't know, JAG Calls is the call company that we work with here at Victory Outdoors, and they actually make a Victory Series custom call for us, whole line actually. But tell us a little bit about how JAG got started.
So we've been around for roughly 12 years now. we've come a long ways. We started out going to gun shows and making a lot of people mad at gun shows until we found out that outdoor shows were kind of where we needed to stick to. Um, but I mean, we just got tired of seeing, super cheap $20 calls that were no good, and then the next kind of call you would get your hands on would be $100 box call or $100 pot call, and we just wanted to find the happy medium where you're going to get a great quality call for that mid-range price, something that a normal human being can afford. Yes, hunting is like, I mean, it's consumed my life just as an adult. There's not a weekend goes by where I'm not doing something hunting related, or wishing I was out in the woods. Or if it is hunting season, man, I'm not. All my plans are canceled for the weekends. My work knows that there's 2 weeks, that I'm going to be off, whether it's turkey season or deer season. Deer season is going to be muzzleloader, and turkey season is going to be that first and last week of the season. I mean, it's just here in Virginia, it's a little weird. We have half day hunting for the first 2 weeks. Um, so we do have a little bit of fishing time, but we just, I don't know, man. We got tired of all these call companies just kind of making you spend all this money for a mediocre quality call. And we've been doing this since I was 4. My dad's been hunting my whole life, and then I started hunting when I was 4, and we started making calls, you know, years ago, and then we just started really pushing it, thinking that we could actually do something about 12 years ago, and we've come a long ways. I will say our quality has, I mean, just gotten so much better over the years, and it's only going to improve from here. We love working with you guys, and one of these days we'll you know, get out there hunting
Yeah.
with you, and we'll get out to Nebraska, and we'll make it work.
Right on, man. Yeah. So that's kind of one of the things that, when you guys approached us about, potentially trying to figure out a partnership, I looked at like, I was like, all right, well, I don't know anything about them. So let's just kind of dig into this and kind of looked at their website and that kind of stuff. And, we looked at doing, potentially building, a signature series line. And one of the things that we really wanted to make sure that we focused on was, and so a little bit of background, obviously for those that know me, know that I, have called in competition calling actually longer than I've owned and operated Victory Outdoors. So since 2006, I've been doing competitive turkey calling. And, it's something that I started out doing just to be able to become a better hunter, more accomplished turkey caller. That was my initial, want. And then I like competition, I like competing, and that kind of stuff. And it wasn't something that I was going to be super, but I dove, jumped in with both feet, and I ran around the Midwest, going to all the calling contests that I could within about an 8-hour drive. And I mean, I was calling against some national champions, world champions, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was an incredibly humbling experience. I'll say that. But the cool thing about it is that all of those callers, and they were actually just on display last weekend. We had the Grand Nationals down in Nashville, but all of those callers though are super cool. Like I did not meet one that was, not easy to talk to, and not just a genuinely good person. Especially those what I call like kind of the upper Midwest group, like those are the ones I would see more often than not. Some of the Missouri guys would sneak up here to Iowa and Minnesota and Wisconsin, Nebraska, those kinds of places. When we'd have a local contest, you'd occasionally see some of the guys out of Missouri come up. But for the most part, the upper Midwest guys, you got to know each other, and I met a lot of lifelong friends, in the turkey calling business as far as the competitive side of calling contests. And what was really cool about it is like, I'm like, well, when I was talking to Andrew, I was like, if we're going to do this, like it's got to be a call that I feel like, I would want to run on stage. Not knocking anybody's calls or anything like that, but like, I don't want to just, take on a partnership with somebody that I don't believe in, or I'm going to say I'm using your call, but be running someone else's call, right? Like, and that happens sometimes just because people like what they like, right? It's like broadheads, like if you want to pick a fight with a bow hunter, just start talking about what broadhead they use and a fight breaks out. So we all see it on social media, like
Yes.
literally like groups ban it. Groups are like, no, you can't ask those kinds of questions in our group because it just gets out of control.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the same with shotgun shell. I have this gun.
yeah,
What shotgun shell should I use? Oh gosh.
yeah,
I'm tired of
yeah.
seeing
And
that too.
yeah, if you ask for an opinion, like on social media, you're going to be prepared to get like, 5,000 different opinions. And then there's going to be like 50 people that are going to jump on other topics to tell them why they think that person's opinion is wrong. And it's like, well, it's just their opinion. Like, who cares? But anyway, when we looked at the calling, the calls and stuff, the first thing I was like, hey, send me some calls. Let's see what these things sound like. And I am not kidding you, for a $50 call, your guys' pot calls that you have. I mean, and I tell people this all the time, like whether we're just sitting there, hanging out around the campfire after a hunt, or just sitting in my, basement, running calls, maybe practicing with another competition caller and stuff like that. And I've handed them, these calls, and they'll run it. Oh, that's a good call. And it's like, yeah, okay, so what do you think that call cost? Well, I don't know, 80 to $100. How about $50? And they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, it's like $50 call. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And it's like, and the cool thing about it is, we look at it from our perspective. I'm like, okay, so I can get a high quality call that your guys are going to put Victory Outdoors' name on, and then we're going to be able to sell it, for an affordable price at $50. It's like, I was like, okay, yeah, sign us up. So we were able to get some calls in this last spring, and I mean, we actually had one of our best ever, springs as far as killing turkeys on film. So much so that it's like we have to be really selective, because like we only do probably 6 to 8 turkey episodes each spring. Like there's been times where we've done 8 to 10, but realistically we kind of try to keep that as a relatively small number. Like we don't just take all of our episodes and just make as many, or we don't take all of our kills and just make as many episodes as it makes. We kind of were able to be selective. And so we killed like 20 turkeys on film last year. Our team did, which was incredible. And, I mean, I'm sure there was a couple that got killed that were off film and that kind of stuff, but so you figure 20 plus turkeys using your guys' calls. And then, I said I was in the competition calling and that kind of stuff. And as my family grew and we got some young kids and that kind of thing, like I stopped traveling to go to all these turkey calling contests. So I only hit really like the local ones that are in my state. I run one of them during the Deer Classic on Sunday. We have the Mid-Iowa Classic. I run that contest. So I don't compete in it because I'm the organizer. And kind of a conflict of interest, I guess. But so I kind of stay out of that, and I just kind of run that contest. So I line up the judges, and I make sure everything runs smoothly and everything like that. I get the MC there, usually Rick White from Hunter Specialties, like that. I mean, that's where his fame, I guess, comes from. For years and years, Rick was on all the Hunter Specialties videos. He's actually their executive producer. Like he helped put together all the DVDs from years ago. And he has a new company called Through the Eyes of a Hunter that he puts out videos of. But anyway, I get him to come in and do the MC, be the MC for the calling contest and that kind of stuff. And it's a good time, but I still keep fairly active, trying to call at a contest here or there throughout the year. And I always call at the Iowa State Championships. And since COVID happened, they haven't had it since 2019. So it's usually in August. And so the last time they'd had it was August of 19. And so they didn't have it in 2020. They didn't have it in 2021. And finally, last year, they had it for the first time in 2 years. And I just showed up, and I was calling, I was running your guys' mouth calls. I talked with you and your dad about, how I wanted to, a couple of different calls designed specifically, for what I like to run on stage. And you guys, knocked it out of the park, had some great calls, and I actually was able to win my second ever Iowa State championship. So I've won some opens and that kind of stuff, but that was probably one of the coolest things about it was I just went in there and I was just like, I'm just gonna go in there. I got nothing to lose. Haven't called in a calling contest in 2 years because that one hadn't been run. So I was just like, I'm going to go in there. I practiced, leading up to it a little bit, obviously, because I wanted to, have a good showing. But I was like, I got nothing to lose. And in the open, I called well, but my key run, I just couldn't get it to run on the call that I was trying to do it. Not the way I wanted it to, right? And so I think that kind of hurt me. But then in the state championship, yeah, just everything. I just had a clean run, everything ran good. I had a clean run. I felt good about it. And lo and behold, I ended up winning. And it was like, completely shocked to actually pull that off. I was pumped. I was like, all right, well, there we go. I guess when you don't expect it, good things happen sometimes. But yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting that. But it was fun, man. Let's talk a little bit about that signature series that we developed. We've got right now currently on the website we have 2 pot calls. We've got and then 2 3-packs, mouth calls.
Yep.
So we've got one that's kind of geared towards more of a cutting, one that's geared towards more of a yelp pack. So they got a cutter pack, and then you got a yelping pack. Kind of our go-tos for those kinds of things. Doesn't mean you can't yelp on the cutters. Some guys love a cut call, a cutter type style call to yelp on. We got 3 different reed selections there, 3 different cuts, but primarily it's something that most people would choose to cut on. And then we've got 3 that are really, really, really good at yelping. We got a bat wing, we got a combo cut. That kind of it's a modified combo cut, I guess I'll call it. And then we've got, I think we got a split V. Is that what we got in that? No, yeah, I think so. Yep.
I believe so.
Yep.
And then
Either that or it's a ghost cut. One of the 2.
and then you got your box calls too.
Yep. I don't think we got those on the website yet, but boom. There's the box call. Got a nice walnut handle there. That one, at least this one's walnut. I think you got some cherry wood ones as well.
Purple Heart.
Yep. Yeah, Purple Heart. Yes,
Yep.
yes. You're right.
We
You're right. So
that's kind of our.
but,
So there's actually a story behind that. That was the one wood combination that I really liked when we first got into this, and I had, we were entering call maker contests on a regular basis and just sending calls out left and right. And the box call that we took out of my vest that had my name on it won a first place at one of these shows. And we were like, you know what? We're going to stick with the Purple Heart over walnut. And we've done it ever since. And we've had a lot of success with it. And, we've gotten plenty of pictures from, customers that have just blown it out of the water with all these calls. And it's just, I hate to say it, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean?
right. No doubt. So let's talk about those 2 Yelp. So that bat wing, that was your dad's kind of design, right? That it was a 2 reed bat wing call,
Yes,
right?
yes. That's his go-to absolute favorite call. He's always got one of those. And it was just kind of like one of those things where as a call maker, you are allowed to play with it and design your own thing and try different things. And he was like, you know what, this uh, so-called like 2 reed yelper, it has 2 cuts on the side. He's like, that's so easy to use. He was like, I kind of want to see like if any of our other calls get any easier if we turn them into a two read. And the second he hit that call, he's like, well, we're gonna go ahead and stick with this. And that's actually what we got. Uh, geez, I want to say it was his turkey 2 years ago. That's what we got it with, and then we actually launched it last year.
Yeah, man, that batwing call, you sent that to me to try out, and I actually like a batwing call. It used to be my go-to Yelper when I would, call in competitions. Like there was probably a 5-year period where I really did that before I started using a combo cut, because the combo cut would then allow me to do just more than just Yelp. I mean, I can do some cutting on a actual batwing, but a lot of times I have a tendency to put a little too much pressure on a batwing. And so, but what was really cool about this is, and this is what people don't realize, they put a bunch of backing, like call companies put a bunch of, the reeds underneath, basically put a bunch of backing on there to make it thicker. Basically builds up the thickness of the call, because most of the time, most callers put way too much pressure on those latex reeds. And when they put that tongue pressure on it, then you get really high pitched, you lose all your rasp. So in order to get rasp, you have these 4 and 5 reed calls out there that call companies crank out all the time. And a lot of them, forever and ever were 3 reed calls. Like everybody has a 3 reed call. But we started going, back to these 2 reed calls. And I run a 2 reed combo cut for competitions, and then this 2 reed batwing. And what's really cool is your guys' batwing that you sent. Like I ran it right away, and I was like, oh yeah, I can Yelp on this flawlessly. It's a great Yelping call. I can do some cuts as long as I don't get too carried away, put too much pressure on the call, and it's a finesse call. Like you can do some real sweet like tree yelps, like really nice, and if you want to do a fly down, you can do it. I mean, as long as I would recommend practicing, because it's one of those things you just can't put too much pressure on it. Because if you push that call, like a call like that that's real sensitive, and I'm not saying it's hard to run, but there's a reason why production call companies, and I mean, I'm talking like, the big companies, and nothing wrong with running their calls, but there's a reason why they put so many reads in there, and that's because they're trying to make it more user friendly. Well, by making it more user friendly, it also will affect the sound quality, because the more you build on that, the less versatility the caller has, because they're basically making it so anybody can throw that thing in their mouth and run, and basically run the call. And then conversely, once you start to get into competition calling and that kind of stuff, you want to be able to manipulate that call at a very high level. So you're trying to basically figure out how to, okay, if I do this with either my mouth, my tongue, pressure, amount of diaphragm, that you're going to use to push the air out of your mouth. It's, tip number 1, if you guys are having trouble running a turkey call, a diaphragm call, there's a reason why they call it a diaphragm call, because you're supposed to use your diaphragm. You don't blow a diaphragm call. You blow a duck call. Actually, that's not true. You use a diaphragm as well. But my duck calling guys are gonna be like, no, you don't blow a duck call either, Kurt. But bottom line is that if you can learn how to use your diaphragm to push the air out of your lungs to create the airflow over the reeds, then you have that much more versatility in basically being able to manipulate that call. And what most people can't, what most people just don't really ever get into is those calls where I just keep going through call after call after call to see which one I can find that works for me. So people end up buying hundreds of dollars worth of mouth calls, and that was unheard of. But in this day and age, I mean, you're $15 to $18 for one diaphragm call these days, from some companies. Now, you guys sell them for 10 or $12, depending on what you're getting. But you can get a 3-pack, the Victor Outdoors 3-pack. What are they, $30, I think?
Yep.
So $10 a piece versus, 15 to $18 a piece from, some other companies out there. And at least like our idea is that, okay, we're going to put 3 calls that people should be able to yelp on. And so those 3 calls, there's a Batwing 2-reed, there's a 2-reed combo, and then there's like and I'm going to forget what it is. I'm going to have to go look it up. But then there's another standard call that's more of what you would normally see from Jag. It's one of the calls that I liked, essentially. Like, we looked at the calls. I was like, okay. I ran all of their different cuts that they had and all the different reed combinations, and I picked out, like, what I thought would be the best all around yelping call to pair with those other two. Those other two, it's like, man, they're such sweet calls. And then the cutters is the same thing. It's like, I went through all of you guys' calls. Personally, like, I don't, I'll cut on just about any call that you can make a sound on. But I just looked at, okay, which 3, and then I asked the guys on the team. There's like Ty Green. He loves him some turkey hunting. Like, I think it would be truly for him. It'd be a toss up between bow hunting, whitetails, and turkey hunting. And people usually from Iowa look at you kind of funny, like, really, like, you're from Iowa and you turkey hunt rather than chase whitetails. And I don't think any of us probably ever get to quite that point, but it's a very close second. And I don't know. I guess I'll find out when I go elk hunting on how that compares. But I know people are like, oh, elk hunting's that much more of a thrill than turkey hunting. It's very similar from the standpoint of you're communicating with the animal and you're getting a response from that animal. So, i.e., the bugle versus the gobble. I think it's a very different experience. I think that's what, a lot of guys that elk hunt, from what I can take away from it, they're like, yeah, that's nothing like turkey hunting. Like, at the end of the day, you kill a turkey, you throw it over your shoulder and you walk out of the woods. After you kill an elk on a mountain, and then you got a lot of time and work ahead of you to get that animal off the mountain. So it is very different. I completely recognize that aspect of it. But what's really fun is just knowing that, having that communication with those animals. That's really what I think the draw is to turkey hunting. You actually play an active role, which, to some degree you can do that with whitetails as well. It's just, it's not as a prevalent role in bow hunting whitetails with the calling aspect of it. Yes, people rattle. Yes, people use a grunt call and that kind of stuff, or some sort of bleat call. But at the end of the day, you might go an entire hunt never using a call when you're whitetail hunting. You'll hardly ever go a turkey hunt without using one. It happens, but it's rare. So, yeah, we love these calls. I want to switch gears real quick in talking about these calls. But one of the other things that really drew me to work with these guys, and this is something that was near and dear to my heart, but as well as lots of other people that I've talked to. I've got some people out there that have kind of engaged with us about it a little bit at trade shows and stuff like that. But you guys give back, and you do it through different ways. But one of the charities that you give back to, and probably one of the biggest ones that you've donated to, is autism awareness. And kind of talk about how that all came about and kind of how you guys decided to get involved and giving back to your to this particular organization.
So, my mom has uh, been working with special needs for, I don't know, probably 10 years now. Um, she's not quite a special needs teacher, but she's in the room like a teacher. Um, and we actually had another hunter who loved our calls. He was like, "Hey, look, man, my son has autism. Have you ever thought about doing any kind of calls for that? This and that." And I was like, "Well, you know what? Let me see what I can do." Um, and we were like, you know what, like every bit that we can, like let's go ahead and donate. We'll pick a charity that is geared only towards like autism awareness and whatnot, which is how we fell upon the Autism Society of America. And there's a couple programs that you've seen some really bad reviews for and stuff like that. So we were like, you know what, we're going to stray away from those. We'll work with this one. And we have had the autism awareness calls for this will be our third year, and we've sent close to $3,000 over the last 2 years, and we're hoping to double it this year. That's kind of been our goal, is to try and just double every year. And we do our part. We've actually had companies um, send us stuff to um, like our autism awareness mouth call tape. The company that we got that tape from donated the tape to us. So every single one of those calls had that extra little bit of, proceeds that went to the Autism Society of America. And it was just, I mean, it's just been great. And we've had so much positive feedback on it. And, I mean, every way we can try and help, we do. And, the parents and the family members that are that have a child or a family member that is autistic, like it seems like it can be rough, but it can also be a joy at the same time. We're just trying to help everybody and do what we can to help out in any way that we can.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I've got some family members and stuff like that that are on the spectrum, and so being that, knowing, being aware of it, learning, because at first it's one of those things where it's like, that I think that was the biggest thing, is like, okay, well, what does that mean? If somebody has that, and it is different. Like, there's varying, levels and different kinds and all that kind of stuff that is just, it's fascinating, to be quite honest. But yeah, so we wanted to be involved from that perspective. So we were definitely like, yes, let's definitely get our calls. At least one of we got the pot call here. So basically, it's just like our other calls. So instead of in the background being kind of that red color that we're kind of known for, this one has our Victory Outdoors logo, and it says Just Turkey. It's got the turkey tracks on it, but then behind it has the puzzle piece, symbol that is utilized widely with regard to autism awareness. There are different companies out there and different organizations that use different symbols and that kind of stuff. But basically, the clear picture, the clear objective here is to give back. And one of those things that was really, I was like, okay, these guys aren't, just cranking out calls, trying to line their pockets. I think any small business owner knows that, it takes a long time and a lot of effort just to make a little money. You're not even, you're not in the realm of getting rich quick type of thing. It's just not something that happens really very often in the hunting industry, right? But yeah, super excited though to have our brand be associated with you guys giving back. That's something that we definitely wanted to be a part of. In any way we could help, then we wanted to do that. And so one thing that we've got coming up here, and we talked about it on the last podcast, and we'll probably talk about it next week as well, because it'll be about a week out, but we're about 2 weeks out from the Iowa Deer Classic. And the Iowa Deer Classic is our big trade show. I shouldn't call it a trade show. It's a consumer show. So it's a consumer deer show. It's probably one of the largest ones in the Midwest. It is the largest one that happens in the spring anyway. There's some pretty big deer shows that happen maybe in the summertime leading up to deer season and stuff. But this one, it's basically all about big antlers and deer hunting. But what you'll see is there'll be some turkey calls being sold there. And so we actually have Andrew and his team send us a bunch of calls. We'll have a wide variety this year, to an assortment out there for people to pick from. We'll have some that are our Victory Outdoors brand, as well as we have some that are ones that are just top sellers that Andrew and his dad sell a lot of, that are basically fan favorites, I guess is what I'll say. So we're excited to have that available at our booth. And again, we will have some of the autism awareness calls there. That the goal there will be, again, to just raise some money for a great charity, as well as we'll have our regular standard series available as well. And we don't mark them up. We're not trying to make a bunch of money either. Still, that's the whole plan here. Is a great call for $50. The autism awareness ones are 60. Again, it's for a good cause. And Victory Outdoors, really, we're not making anything off of it. We're just trying to support our sponsor and sell a bunch of calls with our name on it. And honestly, what we love doing is we love running them in the woods. And we do an outstanding, an outstanding job, knocking down some turkeys. I mean, like I said, we killed 20 turkeys on film last year. And that was all with the JAG Calls. And I mean, we couldn't be more happy to have a call sponsor. I mean, we work with some big companies. I will say this: I have opportunities to work with giants in the industry. We have opportunities that we work with. I've got one company that owns 3 call companies that we work with. And you guys could probably figure that out by a process of elimination. But, we work with them on everything but turkey calls. They are a decoy company, and that kind of stuff. But we chose that we wanted to work with a smaller company on the turkey call side of it. And that was so that we could bring you guys a high quality, custom light call. It is a custom call, but it's a custom call for $50 instead of having to spend $80 to $120 for a nice pot call, or $100 for what do the box calls run again?
The box calls are $40.
Yeah, so $40 for a box call. Um, I mean, I was checking in on a couple of custom box calls this weekend because I was watching guys run them on stage. I was like, ooh, I wonder how much that one cost. I check out the website of the custom call builder who makes them, and I'm like, ooh, $175. Wow. I'm like, that is too rich for my blood.
Yes.
I does it sound great? Yeah, it sounds great. It should for $175. If it sounds like garbage, like there's something wrong there. But the cool thing about it is that with JAG and what they do is they give you a great call, runs great, sounds great. Obviously, I have one with their calls, on the stage as well, as in the woods. Killed a lot of turkeys this last spring in the woods as well. And the cool thing about it is that it costs you $50, or if you want a box call, it'll cost you $40. The mouth calls, they're 3 for $30. And so, that's still under the normal market rate. And they are fantastic calls. So, anyway, let's get back to a little bit more, about kind of, what drives, your passions and that kind of stuff. And let's talk a little bit about your most memorable hunt. And it can be a turkey hunt, it can be a deer hunt, it can be anything. But what was your most memorable hunt, and how did it go down?
Oh man. I was actually thinking about this earlier, and I have, I don't know, I have a handful. My, oh man, I took my son deer hunting 2 years ago for the first time. He was uh, 4 then, and I was like, hey, look, because we only hunt public land, so it can be very scary to try and take a child onto public land because not only are you going out there in hopes to be able to control stuff, but then you have to hope that everybody else is playing their part and doing their part in the woods as well. Um, but man, we took it was my father and I we took my 4-year-old out there and he grabbed a hold of that deer call and he was I mean it was the world's loudest kazoo that you could have imagined. I mean, and he was having the time of his life just blowing the heck out of that thing. And after about, I don't know, 45 minutes, he's like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go." So we sent him on his way. I walked him back out to the parking lot, and my wife met me up there, and I walked right back in, and 20 minutes later, I shot a deer. I mean, so if I could have got him to hold on for a little bit longer, it would have been great. But you know how kids are. Once you get them out there, they don't want to stay, and uh,
Matt brings up a good point though. I mean, at least you guys had a backup plan so you could keep hunting. I mean, there's been times where I've taken my stepdaughter Natalie out, and it's like I try to get her to hang on for just a little bit longer, and it's like, and I mean, I pull out all the tricks, take the iPad. She's got a phone now, so it's like she can be on her phone and give her something to do so that it helps pass the time. She's pretty good at sleeping in a blind, so I bring some, when we'd go out, we'd bring um, her mother and I would bring like extra blankets and stuff, so you lay down on the ground and got a little buddy heater going in the one corner, and she's curled up in the opposite corner sleeping. But yeah, I mean, we've had some amazing hunts, and the thing about it is that it's like I to be fair, like I asked that question, but to be fair, it's one of those things where I think I'd have a hard time narrowing down like my all-time favorite. Like I got a lot of them. Like I took Natalie on her first ever deer hunt, and she killed a nice buck. I took her on a turkey hunt. She killed a nice one. Those were really memorable. All those hunts were. I can remember some just me out in the woods, no camera, nothing like that, and just having birds, like I talked about earlier, like gobbling where you don't even know which direction. You thought you knew which direction they're coming from, and then all of a sudden everything's echoing off of everything, and you're like, I don't even know. I'm just gonna sit still and hope that I see him before he sees me. I mean, I've had some really heart pounding type things, like where it's like that's what it's all about, and I've had some great deer hunts the same way. And but one that's really sticks out to me, like I took my dad on his first ever turkey hunt, and it was in the fall, so I knew pretty much where a big fall flock kind of wintered. And I had been there several times, and it was kind of my go-to. Like if I needed to take somebody just to shoot a turkey, that's where we'd go. And so we went, and we each shot a turkey, and it was like sweet. It was an awesome thing. And like the thing about it is that my dad, he really wasn't much of a hunter. Like, it wasn't that he never went, but like he did take me on my first deer hunt. But it was like he wasn't an active participant. He was just like there, like, hey, here's my buddies that hunt, and we're gonna go hunt with them. And so it was shotgun deer hunting in Iowa, which is party hunting essentially. And we were successful. I shot my first deer and that kind of stuff. That was a really cool experience, and I was forever grateful that he was there. I've been on my first ever hunting, probably in the field, real hunting experience. I was not carrying I might have been carrying a BB gun, but I wasn't carrying a shotgun. I know that, but I was with my grandfather, and he killed a pheasant. I remember that. And then we went home and we, basically dressed it out and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool. And then my dad's dad, my grandfather on my dad's side, he was a hunter, and I've got his mule deer head that hung in his basement since my earliest memories ever, I can remember being in that basement and seeing that mule deer head. And people, like my uncle was like, "Hey, is there anything of your grandfather's that, that's a memory or something like that you would want to have?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to cause any problems, but if nobody wants that mule deer head, like I'll take that because it's just something that I have always." I mean, it looks like you would expect a 50-year-old, deer mount to look, right? I mean,
Right.
I mean, it was there probably before I was born, and I'm 42, so I'm gonna guess it's somewhere between 42 and 50 years old. And he shot it out in Wyoming. Him and his brothers used to go out there, and some of his friends, they had a place out there that they went out and hunted, and so I remember him. He always bought me for Christmas magazine articles, or not, or excuse me, magazine subscriptions. So he'd buy me subscriptions to like Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, Iowa Fish and Game, all these different. Every year it was a little different and that kind of stuff. And the thing about it was like as a kid, like I was like any other kid, I really didn't like reading that much, but that was the one thing that I would read. Was I would definitely read those articles to try to gain better understanding, and knowledge and that kind of stuff. And so I did, read that stuff. And he bought me some books too, that along the lines that were hunting books and that kind of thing too, that I didn't probably read when he first got them for me. It was probably like 10 or 15 years later. I was sitting there, I was probably, probably like a college kid or something, or just out of college. I can't remember which. And I can remember sitting there and be like, "Oh, I think I should read this book." And I'd read it and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of weird on how all those weird, things impact your life. But yeah, it would be really hard for me to pick like my most memorable hunt and then, try to explain why that one is the one, right?
Right.
Which is awesome. I think that's probably a good thing to have, a good problem to have, right? It means that we've had a lot of good experiences in the great outdoors. Yeah, so one cool thing that we've got coming up here, I mentioned that we'd be dropping our first episode for Victory Outdoors. So we air, one of our platforms that we air on is called Waypoint TV, and Waypoint has this thing coming up this Thursday. It's called Full Throttle Gobble, and it's a 3-hour block on their live channel. So they have some live streaming. You go to Waypoint, pull up the app on your smart TV, and they have live TV. You can throw it on at any point in time, and they've got live TV, just linear, just like you would expect to see TV if you flipped on like the Outdoor Channel, right? And then the other part of Waypoint is on demand. So on demand, you can go to Waypoint, you can go to our landing page, Victory Outdoors, and you can watch all of our episodes. You can just binge watch it. That'd be great. So please do that, right?
Yes.
But they've got this event coming up, which they've got like some of the best of the best. So you think about like some of the best turkey hunting footage, or like Realtree Road Trips is going to be part of it. We're part of it, and there's basically all of their turkey, their high end turkey stuff that Waypoint has, production. They're going to have on this Full Throttle Gobble on Thursday nights. It's a 3-hour block, and Victory Outdoors is proud to be selected as part of that. So we're excited that we'll be able to have that be part of what we do. We actually just found out about it last week, and they're like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Yeah, that works out great. We're actually going to premiere our first episode for the spring series." So you'll be able to watch that there as well as on demand, and we'll crank that out through all of our social media. On our side, basically at Victory Outdoors can find all of our social media platforms. Andrew, tell us a little bit about what's the best way to find JAG Calls.
So we have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, and then we have our website. All three of them, our Instagram and our Facebook is Jag Calls, and then our website's jagcalls.com.
Awesome.
It brings you to the homepage. You can, pick and choose whichever calls you're looking for, and Victory's calls are under our signature series calls.
Yeah, they work with a couple other groups that they do signature series calls for. But yeah, you just click on that signature series, you'll see Victory Outdoors signature series. Click on that, and it has our landing page with all that cool stuff there. And like I said, check out the rest of the calls that they have, because you're not going to find a bad one in the bunch. We're really happy to be working with you guys over there. And excited for what this next spring's going to come, because I guarantee you we're going to knock down some turkeys. So
I sure hope so. Y'all were killing me. I couldn't pick and choose what pictures to post on social media. Y'all kept sending so many every day. It seemed like y'all were getting turkeys every day during the spring. I was loving it.
yeah, it's a good problem to have, man. Like that's how we want our partners to be, like overloaded with content. Like I wish I could do that, make it that easy for all of our sponsors. Like I tell you what, like that's one of the biggest things with like on our TV side of it. It's like, yeah, we do the show, and we have that, and we have this podcast now, and that's an important aspect of it, right? But the one thing that probably every sponsor wants from us is content, like for their social media outlets. So they've got their own social media outlets that are very active on, and they're like, hey, like, can you get us this? Can you get us that? And it's awesome. We love doing it. And we're already out doing it, right? Like we're already out doing it for our own stuff, social media side of things too. But just takes our guys a little bit of effort there, and we go ahead and put together a little content that can be used by our partners, and it's just all part of doing what we love to do. And like I said, none of us are doing this to get rich. We just do it because we love what we do. And sure, if we make a little extra money on the side, great. But realistically, like I'd still be doing this if I was the first couple of years I was making no money at all. Like on this, I was completely just propping this up with Kurt's money. It was like just gonna, that's all it was. That's, and you don't think about all the things that go into it on the back end. Like as far as editing and buying equipment and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, we're happy to be established, and to continue to grow. I always say this, like Andrew's probably taught me something about turkey hunting, like we talk, off and on and that kind of stuff. But if you ever stop learning, then you're going to get passed up. And so like, I say this, I might've even said this last week, I talk about like, I might be giving a turkey hunting seminar, and I'll have somebody come up almost every single time. I have multiple people come up just to talk, just to chit chat afterwards. And we'll talk, and it's not, maybe not every conversation, but usually I come away with something from every conversation that I can then use down the road, potentially. I'm always listening to those people that are talking to me, telling me like, hey, this, have you ever tried this? Because this seems to work for me. It's like, maybe I have, but maybe I haven't. Like, and if I haven't, I might like just kind of mental note, keep track of that, and I might have to pull that out someday, out of my bag of tricks, for one of those old gobblers. So, that's the thing. Like, and it's like that with anything in life. It doesn't matter what it is. Like whether you're running a business, whether you're at work working for somebody, I think that everybody should strive to just continue to keep learning, and then be nice to everybody. Don't be a jerk. Quit being a jerk, Andrew. Quit being a jerk on social media.
I'm gonna have to try and stop. It just comes naturally.
Yeah. No, we so. Full disclosure, we were having a conversation about of people who made comments on social media and why. Earlier today, we were getting ready for this podcast, and we were like, sometimes it's mind-boggling on why people feel the need to make that comment. It's like, just keep scrolling. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, just keep scrolling.
Yeah, the amount of people that don't keep scrolling and should, it's mind-boggling. But it is what it is.
Unfortunately, it's just reflective of the society we live in, and people want to be heard, and so that's fine. I mean, I always tell everybody that I talk to, just let it roll off your back. Just don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. I mean, I think it's sometimes harder for some people than others. I've seen some comments sometimes that are aimed or lobbed at particular people, and people feel the need to come to their defense. And I always tell my guys, like, don't get caught up in it. Like, even if it's about you, like, don't let somebody like run your name through the mud unnecessarily. But, if you don't need to comment, like I tell them, like, just let it go. And it's hard. I mean, it's not like I haven't been there before, right? Like, I've sitting there like, ooh, I really want to say this. I really want to say this. And they're like, nope. I've typed it out. I've typed it out before. I mean, like, typed out, like, nope, delete, nope.
Yeah,
No, I'm gonna be good.
if you're on social media, you really have to have thick skin, and you have to have a lot of discipline on everything. Especially like for somebody like me, there's a lot of stuff that I think is funny that I just won't post just because I'm like,
Yeah,
somebody's
yeah,
gonna find this and not like it.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, it's just there's so many landmines out there. You're just like, I don't really want to step on this, but yeah, it's one of those deals where, um, you know, it's just crazy. But man, been a great time talking with you, man. We're excited to be working with you guys again this year, and looking forward to this spring. Good luck when you guys get out there. I know you guys get started pretty close to about the same time we do, and a little bit different structure as far as seasons go and that kind of thing. But I'm sure we'll be talking to you again,
oh yeah.
maybe the middle of turkey season, and kind of check in with you to see how things are going. But man, appreciate you joining us today. And got anything turkey tips that you want to end the show with?
Turkey tips to end the show. Well,
Yeah, buying Jag Calls. That's the way to go. That is the tip of the day. Just kidding. Shameless plugs aside. Appreciate you joining us today on kind of short notice. But we will definitely check in with you in the middle of our spring season, just to kind of see how things are going with you and your brothers and your dad, and kind of see how your season's going. And we'll kind of give you a quick update about how it's going for us. But appreciate you joining us.
yeah, man, no worries, anytime.
All
We're
right.
we're always happy to be on.
All right. Hey, guys, next week, make sure you check back in on the podcast. We're going to have Zach Geeth join us, and he is going to tell us about the monster 210-inch giant that he killed this last fall. He's a team member of ours. If you follow us on social media, you saw this picture. I personally took the pictures of that deer. I've seen it. The pictures do not do it justice, but you will be able to hear the story about that. And then later on that week, you can join us at the Iowa Deer Classic, and you can see that deer in person. Until next time, we will talk to you guys later, and be safe, everybody.